Saul Canelo Alvarez's rise to boxing superstardom was anything but easy. Born into humble beginnings in Guadalajara, Mexico, Alvarez had to fight his way from obscurity to global recognition. His career has been defined by not only his power and aggression, but also his willingness to take risks against difficult opponents. One of the most fascinating tests of his early career came in July 2014, when he squared off against the Cuban master technician Erislandy Lara. This was not merely another fight. It was a pivotal clash that highlighted both Canelo's determination and the frustrations of battling one of the sport's most elusive tacticians. For Alvarez, it was a chance to prove that he was still growing after his lone defeat to Floyd Mayweather Jr., while for Lara, it was the opportunity to announce himself as a true force in the super welterweight division. Canelo had already experienced the cruel education of fighting Mayweather. In 2013, the Mexican superstar was handed his first professional loss when the pound-for-pound king put on a masterclass, teaching him that boxing is as much about levels of skill and IQ as it is about brute force. Mayweather's precision, defense, and timing made Alvarez look ordinary that night, and the result forced him to reflect on what he needed to add to his arsenal. Many fighters have crumbled after such an education, but Canelo responded in the way great fighters often do. He regrouped, rebuilt, and returned. He rebounded impressively with a stoppage victory over Alfredo Angulo, showing his power, grit, and refusal to be defined by one setback. Still, while Angulo was aggressive and powerful, he lacked the defensive brilliance that had troubled Canelo against Mayweather. Lara, on the other hand, offered a completely different challenge. Erislandy Lara was a Cuban southpaw who embodied the classic style of his nation's boxing school: slick footwork, excellent timing, and defensive mastery. Known as a defensive wizard, Lara made opponents miss, frustrated aggressors, and punished mistakes with sharp counterpunching. He wasn't necessarily the most entertaining fighter for the casual fan, but for purists, he was poetry in motion, a man who turned defense into an art form. For Canelo, who thrived when he could plant his feet and unleash combinations, Lara represented a nightmare stylistic matchup. If Canelo could not close the distance and make the fight rough, he risked being outboxed in front of the world. When the fight began, the anticipation was palpable. Canelo entered determined to earn Lara's respect early, while Lara appeared relaxed, eager to test the Mexican's ability to cut off the ring. In the opening round, Canelo pressed forward, attempting to corner Lara and unleash body shots. A heavy punch to the midsection signaled Canelo's intent. He would not waste energy chasing Lara's head, but would instead invest in the body, hoping to slow the Cuban's legs over time. Lara, however, was unfazed. He flicked his jab, landed a crisp straight left, and moved smoothly along the ropes, making Canelo miss more often than he landed. The first round was close, with both men having moments, but Lara's accuracy stood out. The second round followed a similar script. Lara's jab and straight left repeatedly pierced Canelo's guard, keeping the Mexican at bay. Canelo continued to stalk, occasionally finding success downstairs, but the difference in clean, accurate punches favored Lara. He moved in and out effortlessly, frustrating Alvarez and limiting his opportunities. By the end of the second round, Canelo had not solved the puzzle, and the frustration on his face was apparent. In the third round, Lara grew more confident. He doubled his jab, circled constantly, and picked spots to unleash sharp counters. Canelo, aggressive as always, struggled to pin his opponent down. Each time he attempted to cut the ring, Lara sidestepped or pivoted away. The Cuban's defense made Alvarez miss wildly, drawing reactions from the crowd. While Lara wasn't landing with devastating power, his clean, accurate work was scoring points and emphasizing the gulf in technical precision. By the close of the third, Canelo was trailing in many observers' eyes, and questions mounted about whether he would find a way to adapt. Round 4, however, brought a shift. Perhaps sensing the urgency, Canelo charged forward with greater intensity. He closed the distance more effectively, forcing Lara into exchanges. This time, the Mexican's body attack began to take center stage. Thudding hooks to the ribs and midsection landed with authority, and while Lara still scored with counters, the physical toll of Canelo's punches was visible. For the first time in the fight, Alvarez appeared to seize momentum, and the crowd roared in approval. The scorecards were tight, but Canelo's aggression had finally translated into tangible success. Rounds 5 and 6 underscored the contrasting styles that made this fight so intriguing. Canelo, realizing Lara's head was difficult to target, doubled down on his body assault. Each hook landed with a thud that echoed in the arena. Lara, meanwhile, remained committed to movement and precision. His left hand continued to find its mark, snapping Canelo's head back and preventing him from overwhelming the Cuban completely. By the sixth, frustration was again creeping into Canelo's demeanor. He plowed forward, missed often, and looked slightly one-dimensional compared to the complete fighter he would eventually become years later. Still, he was relentless, and when he landed, the impact was unmistakable. The fight reached its halfway point with both men having arguments in their favor. Some observers had Lara up on the cards, citing his accuracy and ring generalship, while others leaned toward Canelo's aggression and bodywork. It was the classic dilemma of boxing scoring. Do you reward the fighter landing cleaner punches or the one dictating the pace and pressing forward? In round 7, Canelo finally broke through in a meaningful way. A cut opened above Lara's right eye, the product of Alvarez's heavy blows. The sight of blood energized Canelo and shifted the psychological momentum of the contest. Lara, though still elusive, began to slow ever so slightly. His output dipped, and while he remained difficult to hit cleanly, the cumulative effect of body shots was taking hold. Canelo, sensing opportunity, pressed harder, and though he continued to miss often, the fight's complexion had changed. By round 8, Alvarez was visibly growing in confidence. He pressed with authority, mixed his combinations better, and seemed to finally settle into the rhythm of the fight. Lara, by contrast, appeared less energetic, relying heavily on his jab and movement without the same sharpness he had displayed earlier. Whether it was fatigue from Canelo's relentless attack or the discomfort of the cut, Lara's game plan looked less effective. Still, he landed enough clean shots to make each round close, forcing fans and analysts alike to debate who was truly ahead. The 9th round further highlighted the clash of styles. Canelo, emboldened, stalked forward like a hunter, digging at the body with both hands. Lara, though still elusive, was forced into more exchanges than before. He landed some crisp counters, but Alvarez's relentless pressure seemed to sway momentum. The crowd, often frustrated by Lara's defensive approach, grew louder with each Canelo combination. It was becoming apparent that while the Cuban was boxing beautifully in moments, he was not doing enough to convincingly seize control. The 10th round was razor-thin. Both fighters largely stuck to their strategies. Canelo pressed, swung, and targeted the body. Lara circled, jabbed, and countered. Neither man gave an inch, and the outcome seemed increasingly destined to come down to the judge's interpretation. Some argued Lara's clean shots were the difference, while others believed Canelo's aggression and damage inflicted carried more weight. As the fight entered the championship rounds, the question became not just who was winning but who wanted it more. Both men were fatigued but determined. In the 11th, Lara threw with more intensity, perhaps realizing that the fight was slipping away. His straight left landed repeatedly, halting Canelo's forward march and reminding everyone of his precision. The crowd, however, grew restless, booing what they perceived as excessive running from Lara. For them, Canelo was the man forcing the fight, and Lara was the one avoiding confrontation. The 12th and final round carried immense stakes. Both corners urged their fighters to give everything. Lara danced and moved, landing sharp punches, while Canelo pressed with urgency, swinging heavily at the body and head. The Mexican's frustration was visible. He knew a knockout would erase all doubt, but it never came. Lara, slippery until the end, tied him up and continued landing clean counters. When the final bell rang, both men raised their hands, convinced they had done enough. What followed was one of the most controversial decisions of the era. Judge Jerry Roth scored the fight 115-113 for Lara, while Dave Moretti had it 115-113 for Canelo. The third judge, Levi Martinez, delivered the decisive card, 117-111 for Alvarez, giving the Mexican the split decision victory. The wide margin of that final score ignited heated debate. Many fans and analysts believed Lara had boxed well enough to deserve the nod, while others argued that Canelo's aggression and bodywork were the more impactful factors. The divide underscored the subjective nature of boxing scoring, where different judges prioritized different aspects of the sport. For Canelo, the victory, though controversial, was another crucial step in his development. It showed that even against a stylistic nightmare, he could persevere, remain relentless, and find ways to succeed. He learned that cutting off the ring required more than pressure. It required angles, patience, and craft. The fight became part of his education, shaping him into the more complete fighter he would later become. For Lara, the loss was bitter. He felt robbed of a career-defining victory and spent years insisting that he deserved the win. His performance, however, cemented his reputation as one of the sport's most technically gifted fighters, even if his style never endeared him to mainstream audiences. Looking back, the bout is remembered not only for its controversy but also for its role in Canelo's evolution. The lessons he learned that night became evident in later fights. Against future opponents like Gennady Golovkin, Danny Jacobs, and Sergey Kovalev, Alvarez displayed the ability to cut off the ring more effectively, diversify his attack, and remain composed against difficult styles. His growth from the Lara fight to his later prime was a testament to his adaptability and willingness to learn. Ultimately, the clash between Canelo Alvarez and Erislandy Lara was more than just a fight. It was a chess match, a battle of philosophies, and a showcase of how styles make fights. Canelo represented aggression, power, and determination. Lara embodied finesse, defense, and precision. Together, they produced a fight that continues to be debated years later. Some saw it as a robbery, others as a rightful victory, but everyone agreed on one thing. It was a defining moment in the journey of a young fighter destined for greatness.